I forgot the lights. What is up? Nick is doing something funny backstage, and it's hilarious. I'll bring him out in a minute, but let's see. Who do we got in the chat? Thank you very much, Scuttlebutt Nation, for joining us tonight. Scarif is back. Scarif Scuttlebutt, we are live again. We took a little break. We had some technical things to figure out, and obviously life happens. So thank you very much. You guys are great. There's a couple people in the chat that joined us here. We've got a really awesome show and a wonderful discussion with some friends, and can't wait to get started. But let's see who is in the chat. Let's go over to the chat area. Our friend Ubaldo, ¿cómo estás? Buenas. What time is it? It's 7 o'clock. Buenas noches, GeForce Racing. Rolando Flores, thank you very much for showing up here. Nicholas Stockbridge, thank you. Megan's in the house. Amanda, thank you very much, Amanda. Let's see, what is Megan saying here? Ro, I don't like this waiting screen as it reminds me of my Oculus, which I sorely miss using to work out. That's interesting. You use your Oculus to work out? Don't you get all sweaty and wet? Interesting stuff. But I use my Oculus not to work out, but to battle evil Sith droids. Yeah. That's funny, Nicholas. I am the dude in the show. Of course you are. Thanks for the dude coming. So I got some announcements before we get going. Again, thank you everybody for joining us. Let's see, what do we got? Last Thursday's show, episode 154, Your Star Wars Story. If you have not listened to that, please take a look. Available obviously on podcatchers everywhere. I talked to a couple of people, some folks that you might find familiar. What was the spark that made you a Star Wars fan? I love asking questions. I love asking those questions in particular to the fans, to people that listen to us and obviously interact with us on Twitter. It's really cool. I like hearing your Star Wars story. So in that vein, listen to episode 154 entitled Your Star Wars Story. What is let's see, I just saw a comment here. Amanda says, what does she say? The hat, yes. You know what? I've been trying to I got a couple of patches. This is Scarif patch. But this t-shirt is no longer available. It was taken down by Disney. Friends don't let friends fly X-Wings. And obviously, if you know anything about me, I am a fan of the Empire. Hashtag long live the Empire. But this is the only one. I think I sent one out to a Patreon a while, like a year and a half ago. So these two are the only ones that exist. It's unfortunate, but there you go. Let's see who else I miss. Okay, hey Ubaldo, what's up? All right. Who else is in this? Got some people coming in. Pop My Culture is in the house. Thank you very much, Shanti, for joining me. go back to the announcements here. So I want to remind everybody to go listen to episode 152 on podcatchers everywhere. We have a contest going. If you listen to that episode, please stick around to the end. I give you some details on how you can win one of 3 swag packs. The Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast in April was 4 years old when Brad and I started it. We started talking about Star Wars. It was fantastic. The rest is history, as they say. But I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I want to give away. It's our birthday, but you get the presents. So check this out. I'm putting together a couple of swag packs. We got some Star Wars Lego packs here. I'm going to put them over to the side here. Oh, man. Like this is stuff I get. And I'm like, why would I want to give it away? But how many TIE fighters do I have? But you can never have too many TIE fighters. So this is a Hot Wheels Starship Edition TIE fighters. I also bought one of these guys, Mini Squadron Snowspeeder from The Empire Strikes Back. You may have heard of that movie. Absolutely. And obviously stickers galore. I got some stickers for our patrons, but special stickers for our birthday celebration, our contest that, you got to get some details on episode 152. Some other little action figures. I got some Hot Wheels cars, Wrecker from Bad Batch, and Sonic the Hedgehog action figure. But I think this one might be spoken for. There's a Sonic fan that is very dear to me, and I think he deserves all the Sonic we can get. But yeah, stickers. I got toys, collectibles. They're not toys, right? They're collectibles. Yes, sir. So yeah, listen to episode 152. That's the episode where we talked about C2E2, Nicole and I, and Todd from WSTR, wonderful Chicago friends, and Greg from Rebel Base Card was also present. So check that episode out. And yeah, so the contest is going on until May 25th. That's a special day, if you are not aware, May 25th, 1977. But that's when Star Wars came out. Absolutely. And then another announcement. We have a special show next week. We have 2 audio drops next week. The show that we're about to do is going to drop on Tuesday. So I'm going to grab the audio from that. And if you're not like a YouTuber and you just want to listen to my lovely voice to and fro on the commute early mornings, I'll drop that in there. And but next week we also have episode 155, I think. I brought in Mike, a fellow Red 5 Network Wookiee radio podcaster, Blake from Dork Wars podcast. We are talking about Star Wars music, but I posed a very difficult question on Twitter the other day. I said, if you were to pick one particular piece of Star Wars music that kind of encapsulates the entire saga, which piece of music would it be and why? Very difficult question, and I know a lot of people answered my tweet, and that was fantastic. Obviously, you got the Twin Suns, you got the Force theme, Leia's theme was mentioned, Duel of the Fates, but I wanted to ask our distinguished panel what they thought, and I do have. There is still time if you wanted to weigh in. There's still time to call. So we've got a hotline set up just for that. Call us at 773-234-8659 and weigh in. We'll put it in the show and we'll see what people have to say. As soon as we are done with this episode, again, Red 5 Network is hot to trot, especially on Saturdays, but every day we've got some sort of show going on, live show and all that stuff. So it's a lot of fun. Make sure that you head on over to Pop My Culture, Shanti and Josh. They are continuing their talk and their discussion and celebration of everything Star Wars. So head on over there to chat and talk and celebrate why it is that we love this franchise so much. So check it out. Pop My Culture. Remember, that is Pop My Culture, previously known as Scarif After Dark. Shanti and Josh over there. Check them out. But let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's start the show. Right after this, we'll bring out the FSF Popcast. You hear Tim's voice on our promos from time to time. Wonderful group of folks over there. Part of the This Is Sci-Fi hashtag. If you guys like sci-fi, give that hashtag a follow and check out all the shows under that umbrella. Thank you very much. We'll be right back. Let's get the show started.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Yes, sirree. How's it going, everybody? Let's put everybody up here so we can see your lovely faces. Take a little wave.
Hello, Governor.
Hello, Governor. What's happening?
The true form is wrist, wrist, elbow, elbow.
Oh, yes. Or as Mark Hamill would say, less wrist.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm just doing this.
Great spot. Excellent. How are you guys? Everybody in the chat, welcome Tim and Nick from the FSF Popcast. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing
So far,
good.
so good.
Dandy, even.
Dandy, yes. Nick, you were doing some. I always love watching people react to our little intro. The music is obviously you can dance to it, but
You
you
can
were
dance
doing,
if you want to.
you were
Oh, I
doing
was
some
just,
wonderful waves
like-
back there. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to give your show a pitch. I know we've got some folks from all across the interwebs in the chat. We'll give some shout outs in a minute, but I want to give you guys an opportunity to tell people how they can visit you and say hello there. Where can
All right,
folks
Nick, you
find
want me to do it or are you doing it?
Well, in one spot, we have a YouTube channel, the FSF Popcast.
Pop, pop, pop.
You can also
Very
find us
nice.
on Twitter and Instagram at the handle at FSF Popcast or our website, www.fsfpopcast.com.
Very nice. I love that radio voice.
Oh, thank you. I try. Every once in a while it happens.
Excellent. So what do you guys just recently dropped a very cool episode. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks. So the whole month of May, we're doing Star Wars month. We don't just do one episode here or there. The whole month is about Star Wars. And so, oh, hey, thanks for that shout out. There we go. But yeah, so what we just released was an interview with an actor named Josh Brenner, which if you don't know him by name, Josh Brenner has been in a whole bunch of cool stuff. The Last of Us, he was in Silicon Valley. He was also in the movie The Internship. He played Lyle. If you don't know who Lyle is in The Internship, go watch the movie. It's a lot of fun. But he's also the voice of Niku on Star Wars Resistance, and he did some work in Star Wars Rebels as well. And so we talked to him about
love Niku.
Yeah, so we talk about Star Wars Resistance and how he got into, how he got into the voice acting work there because of his friendship with Tia Sikar and meeting Dave Filoni and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, so it was a really, really cool conversation. And come to find out, he's a massive, and I don't think we can say that enough. He's a massive Harry Potter fan, and the lengths that he tried to go to get into one of the Harry Potter movies as an extra, only to get denied because he couldn't get a work visa. So,
Oh, wow.
it was a pretty cool
That's
conversation.
Excellent. That's awesome. That's awesome. What else are you guys watching or concentrating on? I want to talk a little bit about, we're going to talk a lot about like science fiction and fantasy, but what are you guys watching currently? Anything cool that you guys want to share with our audience?
Well, I think I'm all caught up with the Star Wars aspect. I just finished Visions today. I've not watched the Young Jedi series yet. I'm not sure about that. Like, I know it's definitely geared towards kids.
Sure. Yeah.
I've also been watching Sweet Tooth on
Okay.
Netflix.
Right.
It's kind of like a post-apocalyptic, but people are somehow mutated into animals of sorts. And then another show, I've been watching a lot of reacts on like Ted Lasso or Arcane, or even what is that show? Or Firefly.
Okay.
So
sure. Yeah. The brown coats.
yep.
Exactly. I've been watching a lot of I've been kind of going back and rewatching a few older things because there were some things in like on Apple TV Plus, the show Foundation, based on the Isaac Asimov short stories.
Yeah.
I loved that series when it first came out, and they're getting ready to release a season 2, supposedly sometime this fall. Haven't heard the exact dates. I don't know how the writer strike is going to affect that, but I'm hoping that it's not going to. I'm hoping that's all filmed and done and, written and all that kind of stuff. But I've been going back through rewatching that series, finding a lot of things that I missed the first time around. Some of the just little details of how this episode connected with this episode, and some of those finer threads that kind of sew that series together. And so I was kind of really excited to kind of go back and go through that. Also, one of the things I'm watching it for the first time, and that's the episodes of Stargate SG-1. I always avoided it when I was younger because, well, I was always leery of shows or, TV shows that were adapted from movies, because there was change of actors and there was different, all these kinds of different things. So, but, Nick convinced us to sit down and watch it. And so we started doing a review series on that on our Patreon page. And so that's a Patreon exclusive, but we've been reviewing that. I've been watching that, and I'm finding myself, I didn't like it for the first couple episodes, and Nick knows how much I complained about SG-1 for the first couple episodes. And I'm like, it's not Kurt Russell as Captain O'Neill, Colonel O'Neill. This sucks. This is stupid. And now I'm like, I kind of like this Richard Dean Anderson guy. He's better than he's more than just MacGyver. This is kind of cool. So, yeah. But for me, outside of a tremendous amount of Star Wars because it's May, and because it's Star Wars, yeah, that's what I'm watching.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a wonderful month to be a Star Wars fan. And somebody in the chat wanted us to touch a little bit on Star Wars Visions Volumes 2. And I'm not sure Tim, you said that you have not had time to sit down and watch it, correct?
I have not watched it yet. I'm also not the world's biggest anime fan, so I have a hard time convincing myself to sit down and watch it. When I did finally sit down and watch season 1 of Visions, especially the first couple episodes, I really enjoyed that. But there was only a handful of the episodes that I really enjoyed. Most of them were too, I don't know. I don't know what the word is.
Anime-y?
Anime-ish.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Probably a little too much anime for me, but I loved the very first episode of season 1, the black and white with just the red sabers, and that I thought that episode was amazing. And there was a couple others that I really enjoyed, but yeah. So, but for season 2, I'll shut up and let Nick talk.
Go for it, Nick.
I really enjoyed going through them, and unfortunately, I'm like, I need more. I would like the certain stories to continue forward, just like a mini series. I don't need, whole expansive thing. Just like a 12, 15 episode mini series to kind of do something with it. But the first one, Sith, for season 2, threw me off for a minute. I'm like, what is happening? Like,
threw you off in what way?
The animation style, it threw me off, but it totally made sense by the end of the episode. And I was like, that was a unique twist that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I think I'm with you too. And going into a series like this, obviously after the first season, you almost have to kind of like reset your brain. to accept what's coming in and then maybe evaluate it either after you're done watching that episode or during it, because you're right, that first episode was like, what's going on? This is interesting, but I'm not used to this. Very esoteric, very very different.
Mhm.
It subverted my expectations in a good way.
Right. And I love how they play. They definitely play with light and dark in this series. Well, except for like episode 4, but
Did you get through the whole series?
yeah, I finished the series today. I would say my favorites were episode 1, episode 3. I did like episode 2, but that one is like I would like more. I'd like it to continue because like I feel like it was an interesting place of where they left it off, and I'm like,
Is that the one with
it was
the
called
water?
Screechers.
Yes.
No, Screechers
No.
Reach was the second one,
Okay.
and that one was where they're like working in the mines or something for the Empire, and they escape, and he goes fights this ancient.
Oh yeah,
thing?
that was pretty like emotionally jarring at first. Like
Right, and
it
especially
was-
the end, I was
yeah.
like, "What?"
Yeah, that one. I'm gonna have to watch that again. But that was, I remember it being like, if like little kids were watching it, that was like really intense.
Yeah,
The the creature or whatever that being was in the cave, and then
and it also had a red lightsaber, which was weird.
yeah. But after watching that first one, Sith, I really enjoyed it. I love the animation style after I got into it. I don't know, there's something about it that just flowed in such a, I'm going to use the term, it flowed in such a weird magical way
Yeah,
that that one too, for me, I wanted like a movie like that almost. I wanted a little longer. And I think these little animation shorts are a great way to tell some very interesting stories. I mean, we talked about that second one, and that was kind of you're right. When we finally get to the end, it's like holy crap! Like what's this all about? And he,
Right.
it's almost like a kind of like a pseudo Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But I thought it was pretty awesome.
yeah.
And I only got I think the last episode I watched, which I'm not sure if it was the third one or the fourth one, is I Am Your Mother.
Yeah, that's the fourth one.
Yeah.
It felt like Chicken Run made.
Yeah.
Was it the same company that
I
did
think
Chicken Run?
Gromit, the Stephen Gromit or whatever. Those
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
I didn't like. It was okay, but I didn't like overly care for that one. But I definitely loved the fifth and sixth one.
Now I just want to go watch it so I can see what the Chicken Run likeness is.
That's too
I'm having
funny.
lots of different visions. See what I did there? Visions.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Visions.
sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, 5 and 6. 5 was like it felt like your typical anime style,
Mhm. Yeah.
like the broader style. And I really liked how it kind of showed the Force as being two sides that are pretty much equal. And if you do the fifth one,
Okay.
Journey to the Dark Head,
Okay.
they go to, I don't want to spoil that one,
Yeah.
but they
go to Tatooine again. No, just kidding.
and then the other fun one was the Spy Dancer.
Okay.
Uh,
I've seen stills of that. A very like there's a ballerina with wings that kind of looks like
like a silk dancer.
Yeah.
You know the silks that hang from,
Oh yeah.
and
Like
so
it's
she does like, and her dresses are like amazing, and they're
yeah.
just like flowing. But uh, it's actually a rebel like hideout that all the Empire troops go to
Mm,
for fun,
Yeah.
and they are putting like trackers and stuff on the Imperials, and so it's a lot of fun.
Phasma's in the chat. Good to see you, friend. Nicole just jumped in. Wonderful people. Look at that. Excellent. But yeah, I think and only having watched the first couple of episodes, I I think I think I'm enjoying season 2 a little more than season 1. I think and I don't know if it's because at the time that I watched season 1, I didn't fully like transmutate my brain to accept that style of storytelling. And by the time we know what's going to happen in the second series of films, we already know that it's anime. It's kind of a unique venture into a mix of storytelling, animation. It's we're already ready for it. But yeah, I mean, I sat down and I watched that first one, Sith, and it enveloped me with wonder. It enveloped me with just watching just how imaginative the artwork was, and even kind of like the camera placement, the way they told their story. And obviously it's a different medium than live action television, so you get a lot more flexibility in how you want to like show a frame.
Right.
And I found it just amazing. And I know there were some people that had a problem with how the Sith was portrayed in this, and I think I'll probably watch a couple of friends on YouTube talk about that in the next couple of days. But yeah, I mean, first viewing, I thought it was captivating to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and anything else? Did you guys catch Return of the Jedi on the big screen this past weekend?
I did not know.
That's sad.
Neither did I. I wanted to. I had every intention, and then there was like real life and house chores, and I didn't have time to steal away to go be a nerd. I wanted to. I wanted a nerd.
Yeah,
So
that's cool. Yeah, I caught it on the big screen. It was nice. And last night I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, which I took my son and a couple of his buddies. Had a good time with that. Are you guys big into the MCU, into the Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah.
oh yeah,
I've
yeah.
not seen the third one yet. I
Yeah.
don't think it's out, is it?
Yeah,
No, it
came
is.
out.
It just came
yeah.
out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just hit the theater by us today, so I'm thinking that maybe either Monday or Tuesday, my daughter and I are probably going to go check it out. And nice, Charles.
Nice, Charles. Thank you so much. Yeah, so lots of nerd stuff is happening.
Lot of cool
Whether
stuff
it's
coming.
movies, and I think we get a new Indiana Jones next month, and
Cannot wait.
and they're re-releasing Raiders of the Lost Ark also again as a treat for
Awesome.
for us nerds. So that'll be really amazing. It's funny. Return of the Jedi released 1983, special edition 1997 for those of you taking notes, but it's made some money that I'm sure Disney is not ignoring. A little over
sure.
what at this point, a little over $7 million, which is fascinating for a movie that's that old and is available on both physical media and streaming. So it's wonderful. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I will definitely go there to see Raiders on the big screen, and I cannot wait for Indy 5. So bring it on. I'm here for it. So
Very nice.
Harrison Ford's my all-time favorite actor, so pretty much anything he does, I'm going to sign up for. Just point me in the direction.
Yes.
What if he teams up with Tom Cruise?
That's the definition, Nick, of a love-hate relationship. And I would probably still go. I would whine, bitch, and complain the whole time about Tom Cruise taking up screen time. But I would go for clearly because it's got Harrison. So
yeah, good team up. Good team up. Lunar Girl doesn't think so. Come on,
that's
Kelly.
why. Yeah, that's okay. That's why I like her. We're good.
Well, I said that team up because he's absolutely in love with Harrison, but absolutely hates.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've had somebody say to me before, well, you're never going to get Tom Cruise on your show. Two things. Number one, duh. And number two, even if you want to be on the show, I'm pretty sure I'd say no because I cannot. I don't think I could fake it for that long to sit in here trying to interview him.
Please stand by.
I just thought you were just deep in thought there over a second row, just kind of, contemplating the not niceness I was sharing about Tom Cruise.
Deep thought.
I think I'm back.
Life, the universe, and
yeah, you're back. You're good.
Or am I still buffering?
Yeah, your video's buffering, but your audio seems to be fine.
If we all just...
I think I'm back.
Yeah, you seem to be back.
That's hilarious, Nick. I'm like, wait a minute. Is that real?
We've done that to Kathleen before when her internet froze, and she'll come back, or we'll sit there and we'll act like we're still frozen. We're like,
it's funny. Yeah, I did that once, and they believed it until somebody walked behind me, like looking at me, like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, you ruined." But it reminds you guys remember do you guys remember the Naked Gun? Was it the TV series with
Leslie Nielsen?
There was a TV series.
Yeah, it was from the files of police of Naked. No, not Naked Gun. Damn, what was it?
Police Squad.
Something like that. Yeah, and the end credits were always, like they did a freeze frame like the 70s, and then directed by, produced by, and they didn't actually freeze. It was all like they're like and they did
that track.
And it was pretty hilarious. Police Files, yeah, it's too funny. Okay, so before the internet mess up, I was starting to talk to you guys about. There's a lot of nerd stuff out there, and I wanted to ask you guys what your opinion is. It seems like it's, just like the song says, it's hip to be square. Everyone and their grandmother is privy to our genres, science fiction, fantasy. Everybody wants to geek out. Geek back in the day used to be a bad term, but now we wear that as a badge of honor. I'll start with Tim. I'm going to ask both of you guys, did we win as geeks? Or do you think that, it's just trendy to be a geek, and I guess the general population overtook us, because before it was really kind of like a little niche franchise, segment of entertainment. Nobody wanted to touch our pocket protectors with a 2-foot slide rule.
But at least we didn't have ink on our shirts.
That's right. We were nerdy, but we were stylish. No, I think what happened is that, back in the day, nobody really admitted to reading comic books or things like that. At least the school that I went to, nobody really talked about, the cool things that were going on in comic books. And, because I went to a rural country school, and, it was a bunch of farm boys and all those things. So they were more interested in, going out and shooting something with a gun and everything else, or playing football. That was like the two dichotomies that were available. but for those of us who were interested in Star Wars and X-Men comics and, Spider-Man and all these different things, we really didn't have a chance to talk about that with people at school, because if you did, then, you were the nerd, and you were, kind of the cast aside. And so I really didn't talk about it because, as a kid, you're like, I don't want to be the castaway.
Right.
So I was more of a closeted nerd during high school. And then afterwards I kind of kicked the door open and just like, here I am, came out of the closet. It was great. But I don't know that we won or they won or anybody won. I think it's just more of it's more of to me, an area of acceptance where people are I think more people just kind of figured out there's bigger fish to fry, and if somebody enjoys this, let them enjoy it and kind of go for it.
Cool.
I think it's more about the storytelling. No matter, like, even if you go back throughout history, there was always like a certain type of writings or entertainment of sorts. Like back in the day, everyone went to the movie theater and they would all enjoy such and such theater, and that would be the talk of the town. And so then when you kind of bring it forward, like into Star Trek era and stuff like that, people might be like, "Oh, that's a silly idea," and here we are with cell phones and stuff
Right.
because of the idea of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny because Star Trek, especially. I mean, you see a lot of that technology that has come to fruition, and throughout the years, you mentioned obviously the flip phone, the cell phone. There are military medical beds that are kind of non-invasive, like we see in Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the technology, and I guess this franchise, science fiction and fantasy and all that stuff, I mean, it inspires young people to think outside the box, and I think I wanted to talk to you guys about that. For me, I think it does inspire young people to think outside the box through story, through the advent of technology and the what if. But what do you guys think that is that one spark of science fiction and fantasy that really kind of draws us to the genre? Nick, I'll start with you first. If I gave Tim the first chance.
I think it allows us, as I guess life becomes more difficult,
Okay.
we kind of need a stronger escape.
Oh.
And so it allows us to step out of reality. It allows us to be transported into a world where um, they may face situations that we face today,
Mhm.
and we get to see how someone from the future would deal with it, or someone of a different um, time period. You could almost call like Around the World in 80 Days science fiction.
Yeah.
So it also helps us give us the qualities of what it means to be a hero. Um, it may not be like we may not be able to have superpowers necessarily, but we could also portray certain qualities of the heroes.
Yeah, I think science fiction obviously is born from fables, from parables, from these
Mm-hmm.
stories that have existed, since we were able to write on cave walls. I think, science fiction is kind of an evolution of those types of stories. Um, and I think, the fact that I mentioned that science fiction nerds and geeks and lovers of this franchise were kind of like the outskirts of society for a certain point in pop culture. I think the what if and especially the superhero aspect of things really draws our attention to it. It really gives us the opportunity to really ask ourselves, what if? What if we were part of something special, and we then become part of something special through through community, through relationships, through telling stories of these fantastic places and characters and all that stuff. And I think it allows us to grow as human beings, to be able to tell these stories. And I think obviously comic books does the same thing. You've got science fiction and fantasy. But Tim, what about you? What is the spark that is
Well,
lit under your butt?
I hopefully there's that one down there. I'll explain why it's warm. No, I think that for me, it's much along what kind of some of the same lines we were just talking about. It is the what if, because when we look at science fiction, a good science fiction should make you sit back and think. It should make you contemplate what's going on, and not only in possible future storylines of how things could play out, but what's happening in the now. Because a good science fiction should be introspective. It should make you look at what's your own life and what's happening, and how things are happening and why, and how that may change in the future with these changes, the advents of technology, and should make you want for things and look forward to things. And because so let's look at Star Trek for a moment. Star Trek is always hopeful, for the majority. There's a few episodes that are kind of downers here and there, but for the most part, Star Trek is hopeful. It gives us a glimpse of what society could be if we don't turn into a bunch of flaming, jerk bags. What we could be, where we could go, how we could do things. And that's the nice thing about a franchise like Star Trek. It's something that gives you hope. And then you have Star Wars on the opposite end of the spectrum, which is more fantasy. Let's be honest. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I have to be honest. It's space fantasy. It's space opera. And so the great thing about that is that gives you the release, the escapism that we need, like Nick was talking about, to kind of get us away from the day's problems and all the things that are going on. It allows us to look at things from a different perspective, and maybe so you have the hard sci-fi that allows you to look forward and see where things are going, where they possibly could be. But then you have the sci-fi that's the softer side of sci-fi, which is the escapism, the fun, the fantasy side of things, where you could imagine where these things are, but chances of those things really happening are much slimmer. Whereas I look at it, and as much as I want a lightsaber and I want to do all the things that I see in Star Wars, Star Trek is more of a realistic possibility for our future than Star Wars is, to be
honest. And obviously, since it's based in our own reality, a couple of 100 years in the future, I think you're right. It's interesting because you've got the visionaries of science fiction, and we'll focus on Gene Roddenberry and George Lucas for the most part, since we are talking the Star franchises. But
Stargate.
Stargate, okay. But I think it's fascinating. I think these are authors that creators that really wanted to leave some sort of legacy, and obviously they have. As you can look behind us. Right. Nick, go get some Star Wars stuff. Put it behind you there. But mission is accepted. But it's in the case of Gene Roddenberry, in a time when Star Trek was created, there was a lot of strife in society, and he wanted to focus in on that and examine why it's happening, who it's happening to, and give, I guess, some sort of solution as to, how the problem can be solved or dealt with. Same with George Lucas. Obviously in the mid 70s, we were talking about still civil rights and Vietnam War and et cetera, et cetera. So it's always fascinating to me to, there you go. Very nice. Oh no, my God, what's going on back there? But I wanted to ask you guys, talk a little bit about your favorite creators, and do you guys feel like that sort of storytelling is essential for us as, I guess, as human beings to kind of relate to not only our past but our future and how to handle all that stuff?
Who do you want us to go first?
Can you repeat the question?
Tim will go
Jesus.
first, but I wanted to, I wanted to ask, really, the fact that these authors, we're talking about George Lucas and folks like Gene Roddenberry. It seems like they just wanted to present a, I guess, a storytelling device, which was their, the movies and TV shows, to be able to instill certain lessons in not only young people, but obviously, there was an aspect, especially for George, that he wanted to create new fables for young people, something that they can look up on and really, strive for, like you said earlier, just to become better versions of yourselves. But I wanted you guys to briefly talk a little bit about that, and what your thoughts are on that, especially when you're watching. I mean, it's something that we don't think of right away when we watch science fiction, but there is just a lot of stuff there that is beyond the surface level. I mean, you take a look at an old TV show like Planet of the Apes, and it first, you've got the spectacle because it's science fiction. It's this story that's fantastical, and astronauts and talking monkeys and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like, wow, you peel all that stuff back, and it does make you think, what is that story telling you? And science fiction works so well on such different levels that I think it's the only genre in film and literature that where you can present certain concepts and story in a way that is probably more acceptable than kind of a wagging your finger telling you how it is situation.
Yeah. So for me, anyway, I think that the difference between the two, if we look at just those two creators, I've always felt like Gene Roddenberry had a vision of what he wanted to do, and he wanted to talk about things from a socioeconomic level and talk about how the differences and disparities in the socioeconomic levels were affecting different classes. And he did that by telling stories of humans and aliens and how they interacted, and things along those lines. And that also, affected, his views and visions on civil rights, sexuality, all these different things, and those were all reflected in the original series of Star Trek. And because of his vision and the way he went forth, those stories still hold, true today. Some of the concepts around them are slightly dated in how they're presented, but at the base, the story is still there. However, when we shift our glance over to Lucas, we have a guy who wanted to tell, in my opinion, I've always felt that George Lucas just wanted to tell a simple story of good versus evil, and so he had, A New Hope, and, that was his movie. And I think because of this, and even he said that, the rest of the movies, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, he was kind of forging them as he went. I don't think he had I think he had an overall vision, but he didn't have A to B to C direction as to how he was going to navigate that vision. Whereas Roddenberry had a very, I think, fine line vision of, this is where I want to go. This is how I want these characters to be set up. This is how I want them to proceed. Whereas Lucas was like, hey, I'm telling a cool story of good versus evil, and we're going to throw some laser swords in there, and let's see what happens. And not that that's a bad thing, but I think there's a very different level of presentation. I still think that George Lucas is a genius in a lot of the ways that he's done things, and a lot of things that he's brought to the table, especially when you look at cinematography and the way that he did his movies and things that were different for that time. He brought a lot to the table. But if we're comparing notes as to creator types, I have to unfortunately, I, as a Star Wars fan, give the nod to Roddenberry as a more complete creator. Whereas I want George to be the creative mind of my Star Wars. I just don't want him writing my Star Wars.
Sure, that's fair. Nick, what about you?
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the question.
Yeah,
been
just
Nick.
I mean, the visionaries of science fiction. I mean, they bring so much to the table when it comes to, I don't know, in general, generally speaking, life lessons, new tales and fables, the ability to experience these stories and take something out of it that is that is more than just laser swords and spaceships and things like that. Um, I just wanted to get your take as far as, why is science fiction and fantasy, why is this genre so, um, so I guess important to fans?
It a mind is a wonderful thing to waste. You can it allows us being able to see creative things allows us to be creative as well. Um, you could be dealing with a certain situation and then not knowing how to necessarily handle a certain situation. You might see a Star Trek episode, or you might see something in Star Wars, or even Andromeda, and how certain characters faced the dilemma. Um, they may not have went about it how you thought it was going to go, how they were going to go about solving the issue. So it can help open up your mind to a broader sense of what if. We're coming back to that what if you could, if I was not limited to the universal physics, what is possible for me to do? And then just finding a way to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I think the biggest aspect of science fiction and fantasy is the what if aspect, because, we grow up in a way that, obviously our parents guide us, our mentors guide us, our teachers guide us, life to a certain degree guides us. We don't have a blueprint for it, but I think science fiction really allows us to explore not only those things in life, but ourselves, in a way that, like I said, I think no other genre does that. The what if is very important, and I think that for me is one of the things that I truly treasure, because, as we are, as Star Wars fans, obviously I think we are all still that 7, 8-year-old little kid watching Star Wars in the theater. There's so much awe there that, you know, it gets embedded in our DNA. And I think um, the curiosity is really what sets you on that path of discovery.
Yeah. Well, I know I go back to being a kid every time I hear the opening theme music and I see the crawl. It's instant. I'm transported back to being a kid, and all I want is popcorn and just sit there and watch the crawl, and I giggle. And honestly, every time it hits different if you're at a theater, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, at home and I'm watching it, it's always fun, it's always exciting. But at a theater, it almost kind of chokes me up a little bit, because it's a different experience, and it means so much more to me in that setting, in that environment. You know, we were talking about this last night, and we were doing an interview last night, and we were talking about this with our guest, and just the simple fact that how important that theme music and that crawl is. It hits me like nothing else in the sci-fi world. I mean, there are other sci-fi shows and movies that have awesome theme music and songs and all these different things, and no disrespect to any of them, but you could play the Star Trek theme and you could play the Star Wars theme, and I'm going to get giddy for the Star Wars theme every single time.
Sure. Yeah.
Not the Stargate one?
If you haven't caught on, Nick is a big fan of Stargate.
I do like Stargate. I like Star Wars. I'm all the stars.
Yeah. We're all encompassing star nerds. Yeah, absolutely. I think, we talked a little bit about the fact, and somebody put it in the chat. I think it was Megan that said that she doesn't understand regular people that that don't like sci-fi. Unfortunately, I'm married to one of those. But I'm always interested in hearing, what is it about this particular aspect of entertainment that really pulls us in? And we've heard a couple of things, but obviously, Tim, you've got a wonderful collection of collectibles behind you, and it's it's fascinating to me. Some of us have been collecting since we first saw that Star Destroyer go overhead in 1977. Absolutely. And we in every fiber of our being, it's so weird that not weird, but we relate to that. And what is it about that that just is part of our DNA? I find that pretty cool.
I would say another aspect of sci-fi that isn't really touched on a lot, but has been getting more presence is sci-fi board games. Uh, Board
Oh yeah.
games is where you are taking on the person, kind of, and you're kind of working through a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Or even like D&D and tabletop games have
Sure.
become much more popular today than
Well, yeah, and
they
even
used to
almost
be.
every sci-fi genre or franchise rather has a tabletop, RPG that you can play. Like
Right.
we on Monday nights, once a month, in fact, upcoming on Monday, we play a Star Wars RPG on our YouTube channel. And so we've been having a lot of fun with that. And I talked to somebody else who plays a Star Trek version of it, and there's a couple different other ones, but those are the ones that I know off the top of my head. But
I've even played a Pride and Prejudice version, which is really fun. Surprisingly.
is that the one with the zombies? Pride and Prejudice and zombies, or was it just Pride and Prejudice?
It was just Pride and Prejudice, but still, it was rather unique. Sorry, we're talking about Star Wars.
I'm now trying to fathom in my head how you play that. Anyway, that's fine. We can move on. That's a whole nother subtopic, and my mind is going to go bonkers on that. But
It's too funny. No, but again, just the fact that we're able to kind of take a lot of these stories and apply the what if factor. I think that's one of the very magical things about this franchise, or the genre. What if I were better, or what if I were stronger? And then the cool thing about the what ifs is that a lot of young people that maybe are exploring with who they are, they take upon themselves the notion or the ability to maybe pursue a certain career because of what they saw on the screen.
sure.
You've got pilots and scientists and people like that. Obviously my example is, I love Star Wars for all the stuff that you see on the visuals, but one of the biggest things that really inspired me in my career choices was the men and women that work behind the scenes at ILM doing the camera work and the editing and the graphics and all that stuff. So I think science fiction and fantasy really has such a unique power to be able to inspire both, to use a sports reference, on the field and off the field.
Right. Yeah.
How do you like that, Nick?
Nick's like, wait, what are we talking about?
Backyard TARDIS Nick. He's Nick too. So
gotcha.
Okay.
I'm known for throwing in random sports references that I'd have no idea what I'm talking about because I'm not into sports. So.
One of the other things I love about sci-fi is the connectivity that it gives between the cultures, between the franchises, and even though I think for the most part, there's always been a little animosity between the Star Trek and the Star Wars camps, and I think that it's just, I think even more now, it's just that each side likes to rib the other one and give them a hard time. I don't know that there's true hardcore animosity at any level there. But one of the things I think it's nice is that you can have a couple of people that You know, you can have a Star Wars fan and a Star Trek fan and a Stargate fan, and you can throw in a Andromeda fan and you know what, all these other different camps. And there's connectivity, there's lines of connectivity between all of them. And there's
Yes.
something that at its base, we can all go, well, it's all sci-fi, and here's what I like about it, and here's what I like about this. And I think that you'll find that there's more things that attract you in those groups and in those discussions that are going to push you away because of the way that sci-fi has an opportunity to unite people. I think, as much as I love superhero movies, well, more than superhero unities, you know, do, because superheroes are great, but they're far less realistic in what can happen and how it can happen. Whereas at least with sci-fi, you're going, well, yeah, we're talking about the what ifs, and there's a lot of alien cultures and all these things. We're making them up as we go.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, we also can't say that this wouldn't happen,
Right.
you know, given the right technology and time.
Sure. Yeah. But you know, one of the things that especially with superhero movies, I think, you know, there's still, you know, these stories that are totally relatable. I mean, the biggest one that I can think of is Spider-Man, when Uncle Ben told Peter, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. I use that. It's always in the back of my mind because, you know, and it's not like with great superpower comes great responsibility, but you do kind of have to think about that concept. Especially, you know, if you are, you know, in an advantage of some way, you have to be responsible with that power. I mean, even us as podcasters, you know, we have a platform, a camera, and a microphone in front of us that
Sure.
to a certain degree, that's a power that we have to kind of use responsibly.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, you know, sci-fi, fantasy, what if, think outside the box. It's all fantastic to me, and I love it.
For sure. Yeah, you know, if I have a choice to, you know, 9 times out of 10, if I have a choice to sit down and watch something that's sci-fi or something that's, you know, it's just a straight up action movie, I'm probably going to choose the sci-fi fantasy lane item, because, you know, I'd rather have because the action movie is going to feel a little too real, especially sometimes what's going on in the world. Sometimes
Yeah.
those action movies feel a little too real, like I'm watching just a more direct version of the news.
Right.
But I think I'd rather, you know, sit down and watch something that gives me a little bit of escape, something that gives me a little bit of hope, something that gives
Sure.
me a little bit of happiness. And so, yeah, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to sit down and watch the sci-fi fantasy lane item.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Any other thoughts, final thoughts on sci-fi, fantasy, how we relate to them as fans? I think, you know, to me, it's always been a fascinating topic to kind of discuss with different people. I think I always get, you know, something out of my talks, these deep dives, because, you know, sci-fi for me is really, it's an important genre for many reasons. Obviously, our love of Star Wars on this May, what is May 6th? But it's fascinating to be able to talk to other people about science fiction in general, and I think it's cool.
I would add one more thing. We have interviewed many people from the sci-fi community, whether it was Sam Witwer or Will Wheaton or a bunch of the voice actors that did a lot of our favorite shows, like some of the X-Men and stuff like that. A lot of them, I would say like 98%, were ones that were into the comic books. They were into all the fantasy stuff. They're the ones that are doing good today. Where are their I guess people that are similar to them? That word's
Colleagues,
Peers,
peers,
colleagues.
yes. But like their peers in that age group, when they were into the comics and stuff, they don't have the jobs that these people do. Kind of
True.
right?
You know, just to kind of further that point, you know, not only were they fans back then, you know, most of them are still fans now. And that's the great thing. They're putting their heart and soul into these things, because it's not just a job. It's not just a paycheck to them. This is something that they love to do.
Well,
You know, in fact, Well, I mean, it is, some of them, for some people, some of the things that they've done were just a job, but for the most part, like, last night, a shameless plug here, the interview we had was with Vanessa Marshall, who's the voice of Harrison Dula on Star Wars Rebels. And she told us a story, and you guys will be able to see this in a couple weeks, but she talks about how much this job meant her because she was such a big Star Wars fan. And she talks about going to her very first Star Wars celebration and meeting Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Peter Mayhew. And she's like, how she held it all together till she got out to the car, and then she just broke down crying because it meant so very much to her,
Sure.
and when you hear people, talk about these things and in such a way, it makes me want to watch them even more because it
Right.
means so much. In our interview with Todd Stashwick, who was, from Star Trek Picard, that's another thing that he brought up. He's been such a fan of these things that, that for him to have an opportunity to, put his life where his nerddom was second to none. That was the, that was the big thing for him. And so
Right.
it always makes me want to go watch them in their craft more, because now I see them. You see them as yeah. Sorry, Megan, it's going to be 2 weeks. Uh, um, but we see them, as more than just an actor. You get to see them as more than just the image or the character on the screen. You're seeing them as somebody who's like you and I. A
Right.
big Star Wars fan, a big Star Trek fan, a sci-fi nerd who wants to enjoy these things. And I think that's the connectivity, that I was talking about earlier, is that's the thing that meshes us together. And that's what I love so much about sci-fi, is
Right.
it has this way of just bringing us all together. And I'm talking with people in the chat who I've never met before, and and I'm apologizing to Megan over and over again. Sorry again, Megan. But but that's the thing. I have an opportunity here in this platform to talk with people that I wouldn't have an opportunity to talk with before,
Sure.
and talk about sci-fi with them. And that's something we have in common. And I think that's what I love about Comic Cons as well. You go there and there's
Oh yeah.
there's all these people there, and they're all there to celebrate the same things that you're there to celebrate. Maybe they're a fan of, XYZ, and you're a fan of ABC, but you're there for the same reasons. And yeah, it's such a cool thing. It's such a
Yeah.
cool vibe, and I just love it.
Absolutely. We dropped our episode on C2E2 here in Chicago, and it's one of those things that I always encourage people to head over to a fan convention wherever it is that they live, because it's different to be able to interact with people on Twitter and social media and things like this, but to be in the same space with a human being that also loves the same stuff you do, whether they're dressed up, whether they're looking for collectibles, whether they're excited about, seeing actors the same way you are. I think it's fascinating to me, and I think, like I said, I'm always encouraging people to just get out there, and if you don't have a venue, or if you don't have the ability to go to, maybe hit up a comic book store. Today being Free Comic Book Day, hit up a comic book store and maybe organize something and have people, come out and hang out at the comic book store or cafe and just and chillax with your favorite sci-fi or fantasy. I think it's great.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for joining me here. I want to give again an opportunity to have people find you. Where can people find you before we take off?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to check us out, you can, of course, check us out right here on YouTube at the FSF Popcast. And that allows you to check out all our interviews. And that'll allow Megan in 2 weeks to see our interview with Vanessa Marshall. But yeah, and you can check us out on Twitter and Instagram with the user handle at FSF Popcast. And of course, we have a Patreon channel, all those other things. And just one more quick thing, if I can, just a quick plug. We have a little thing going on, and I know it's been announced on our Twitter page and everything else. But if you have not subscribed to our channel yet, and you're the 800th subscriber, we have 784, I think, right now. So only about 16 more. I'll send you a free Blu-ray of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 1 with about 100 free minutes of special features and all that kind of stuff. So Yeah,
Very nice.
be our 800th subscriber. Get some free swag, as I heard it talked about earlier. The swag.
The swag.
May the swag be with you. Do we just
Excellent.
say that?
Awesome. Yes. And speaking of swag, I reminded everyone before we still have a contest going on until May 25th. Go listen to episode 152. I give you guys some instruction on how to be eligible to win one of 3 swag packs. The Scarif Scuttlebutt is 4 years old, and we want to thank you. It's our birthday, and you guys are getting presents. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, absolutely. If you want to weigh in on any of the topics that we talk about, we have a hotline set up for you guys, 773-234-8659. Leave us a voicemail and let us know what you think. Let us, just weigh in on all the topics and all the cool stuff that we talk about. If you are still joining us, you want to head on over to Pop My Culture. Josh and Shanti are talking about Star Wars, a little movie that came out in 1977. It is Star Wars month here on the interwebs, but check them out if you are still in here. Until next time, this is Ro from the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Tim, Nick, thank you very much. May the live long and prosper be with you. And that's the Scuttlebutt.